Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we've got an object that came to us with the ship, and you're on your ship just went down, your ship did not send out a radio signal because it went down so fast, now you're in a lifeboat. How do you tell people where you are? That's what this guy's for. She is called a Gibson Girl. Just look at how curvy she is. I like my Iowa-class battleships curvy, but this is on a whole nother level. So, this sort of emergency radio was invented during World War II, believe it or not, by the Germans. You Kriegsmarine fanboys, the Kriegsmarine did know how to come up with emergency stuff when we sank their ships. So they come up with this, and we saved the first group of them in a lifeboat that we come across one. And so the U.S. Navy starts manufacturing these for their own ships and ships' boats. And as far as I can tell, we basically used the same pattern up through the 80s while the ship was in service. This came to us with the ship. It's the same basic pattern as World War II, so I believe we were just using the same thing for the last 50 years. We might still be using it. It's a relatively simple device. So essentially, you've got a hand crank on top to charge it. Radio antennas work better the higher up they are. The higher up you can get them, the more of a signal they'll send. So the antenna is basically like this long string. You attach it to a balloon, and this would come with a yellow waterproof canvas bag, one for the Gibson Girl itself and another one with a bottle that will inflate that balloon to make it rise with the antenna on it. And it's got some other stuff. It's got a ground that you just drop into the water. And on the top of it, it's got all your Morse code letters. So basically, you deploy this thing even if you're in a little inflatable raft, and you can use it to send a signal. Remember, if you're taking a Gibson Girl on the lifeboat with you, don't forget all of her accessories and her handbag. So this is really a cool device, and surely we're all familiar with incidents during World War II where ships go down and people are stranded at sea for days at a time. The Indianapolis is a famous one that comes to mind. Oftentimes these were stored in the radio room, and it would be somebody's very specific abandoned ship's instructions to take one of these to the boat. Other people had specific instructions to withdraw a rifle from the small arms locker, so they had something for anti-shark in the boat. Obviously those aren't stored in the boat all the time. But when you've got a really rapid wrecking event like what happens to Indianapolis and other ships like that, you aren't able to go and draw this equipment. You end up in the water, and in Indianapolis' case, very few rafts even make it in the water. Most guys were just in their life vests if they had those. So that's the one downside to this. You got to go and get it from somewhere. It can't just live outside in the raft permanently. And once you're out in the boat, it's in a waterproof container. It'll be fine for the length of time that you're out there, most likely. So, how's the Gibson Girl actually work? Why is she shaped like this? It's not just aesthetics. I am sitting in my life raft. So even sitting in the lifeboat, and obviously you don't want this to fall out of your pitching boat, it's got this strap that goes around your legs and holds it right here. Your thighs are supposed to go in those indents, and you grip onto it for dear life. And then you can power it like that through the hand crank while you've got your antenna deployed and whatnot. And now you can transmit a signal, tell people where you are. Yeah, so this does a lot of stuff. It's the Swiss Army knives of emergency radios. It's got a blinking light on it. You can just flash lights if you see another ship in the dark, or you can transmit radio signal. This is important if you, say, go down in the middle of a fleet and you don't want to let the enemy know where your fleet is. You just blink a light and somebody else in the fleet picks you up without transmitting. Or you go down like Indianapolis and you're in the middle of the ocean, nobody knows where you are, even though they were on the plotted course they were supposed to be on, you can still send out a radio signal. I talked earlier about the antenna, and that's what this guy is right here. You pull out the retaining pin, and there's your spool of antenna, and here's a little clip at the end. You attach that to your balloon, and when it inflates, it just pulls this up and unspools it. And you've got a ground wire in here also, so it's everything you need to operate. And in the finest tradition of emergency equipment, everything on here is labeled. So in the tradition of the sea, your radio man draws the short straw and you end up eating him. You can still operate this without the guy. It's perfectly fine. Don't forget to crack his bones open and drink the marrow too. A lot of calories in there. Anyway, so nobody in the boat can claim that they're immune from drawing lots. But on the top here, it's got your Morse code, so you know what you're sending. It's got all the instructions. Piece of cake. Even an amateur like me can figure this out. Yeah, and thankfully, there's even a diagram that shows you how to put this leg strap on. I will say, even though this thing is heavy to lug around, when you're wearing it with the strap like this, you can't even feel it. What are some things you think should be in a lifeboat? Let us know in the comment section down below. A radio is one of those things that I never wrote down when I was a kid because I didn't think it was possible to have a functioning radio in an open boat. But sure enough, by World War II, they'd figured it out. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State. We also get support from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves, and that keeps us from having to transmit out an SOS. We really appreciate your support, and there's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue to support the museum. It allows us to go through and find things like this and dedicate the time to figuring out what the heck is it. You can also support the museum by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about us and our channel. Thanks for watching.